If you don't start doing this one thing, you could lose out on your next promotion. I know so many people who feel stuck, they want to pay down debt, or maybe they just want to get the new house or impress their friends. Regardless of why you want to get promoted, I'm going to share with you why your less experienced coworkers are getting promoted instead of you and what you can do about it. Let's start with what everyone thinks is important to getting the promotion. So the first one is visibility. This is something that everybody shouts from the mountaintop. Oh, you have to be really visible to get the promotion. I'm gonna say, yes, it's important, but not in the way you think. What drives visibility is the performance underlying the visibility. So that's getting shout outs, that's being the top of the dashboard. You're gonna have those things and be visible if you have the performance that goes along with it. The second one is confidence and charisma. Everybody says you need to have that in spades to get promoted. And I would say no, that's not really what causes people to get promoted. I don't care how good of a communicator you are, it doesn't translate to a promotion. Confidence comes with competence.
It's about kissing ass or who you know. And to me, it's really all about what you do and the merit and what you're bringing to the table. Small things that maybe you think people won't notice, making sure that that T is crossed.
So when you have the underlying performance, like we talked about in the first one, then it's much easier to come across confident and actually feel confident because you are competent. The third and last one here is that you need more schooling. Candidly, this is kind of on the right track, but it's kind of not. You need to be a continuous learner. You need to expand your knowledge. Schooling is a method of that, but it's arguably the least effective method of that. You can go out and you can learn new skill sets, you can learn how to do new things through the internet. You don't need to go to Harvard to learn the skill sets that you need to get promoted. You need to go to Udemy and Audible and these types of things where you can actually just upgrade your skill set without spending a bunch of time and money on schooling. You might be asking yourself, how do I know this stuff? My name's Liz Connolly and I founded Trifecta, which has been valued at over $250 million. I also started Katsu, whose sole purpose is to help people level up in the workplace. So I want to share a story from Trifecta. I had this team member who was extremely professional, a joy to be around, worked hard. She was very polished and helpful and just honestly did a wonderful job in her role. Over time though, she didn't move up. She didn't do anything that drove revenue or saved the company money though. So ultimately I had this MBA on my team who didn't actually move out of an entry-level type role. I think you can kind of contrast that with the opposite, which was I had a department head who had no formal schooling, had self-taught himself the skill set for that department. The sheer output of his work brought in millions of dollars for the company. Ultimately, it didn't matter whether he had the best communication skills or whether he was phenomenal at leading his team. His performance was so great and he led by example. And so he ultimately ran a department versus someone else who came across as more polished, but didn't necessarily have what it took to actually drive results.
Theory's not going to get you there. Like, you really have to get in there and do it.
So that's what I want to talk about, is some things not to do regardless of your level of experience. And then we'll dive into what to do. First thing you're going to not want to do is take all the work on yourself and forget to manage the resources. Whether that's people, time, money, you need to spend some effort managing those resources, because ultimately one person typically can't do as much as 10 or however many. Same with money. You might spend 10 hours of your time on something and it could have been done with just 20 bucks. Who knows? Thinking that through of how to actually manage your time, your money, your people is really, really important. Another thing I see all the time is people don't report their results up the chain. Let's say I'm in a sales role and for whatever reason, we don't have a CRM dashboard showing how much revenue I'm bringing in or showing how many deals I'm closing. That's okay. I need to report that up to management, to the people that I report to, so that they understand what's going on with me in my department and everything like that. Number 3 is limiting beliefs. So this is so common, is being the person that always jumps in whenever people are brainstorming or talking about a new idea, is saying, well, we can't do this because of X, Y, and Z. Don't be that person. This is a promotion killer, I promise you. It's really, really bad because you're just not going to get the results and the performance out of that type of person that you need to be able to get a promotion. You have to believe that you and your team can deliver. There's a famous quote, he who says he can and he who says he can't are both usually right. You need to be telling yourself and your team, we can, we can, we can. I'm not saying be unrealistic. Figure out what needs to be true for me to get this done and my team to get this done. Don't come at it the opposite way of this is blocking me, this is blocking me, this is blocking me. Say what needs to be true. Walk through it that way. Don't waste time on ticky-tacky shit that doesn't matter. So this isn't like, oh, throwing darts at a dartboard or hitting the putter in the office. Like, it's not the normal stuff that you would think about it. It's more, are you wasting time by creating meetings that don't need to happen? Reoccurring meetings, even though there's nothing to talk about this week. Cancel the meeting. Sending emails that could have been a 2-second phone call and spending an hour to write the email. Like, all of those type of things, those are killers, and you don't want to spend your time on that ticky-tacky type stuff.
You know, honestly, I think that's kind of always been one of my natural talents is I'm able to just sort of laser focus in on what's important. But it's also something I reinforce to myself regularly. You know, what's important here? What are we actually talking about? What's actually going to move the needle? What's actually going to get us one step closer to where we're trying to be? And then, like a rabid dog, I would just hold on to that as tightly as I could, because I knew that that was the way.
The last biggest one that I see is forgetting to set expectations with your team. So when you're leading a team, you want to make sure that they know what the expectation is. It needs to be crystal clear. Anybody could repeat it back to you at a moment's notice. When you've set that expectation, they also understand what happens if this expectation is met and what happens if it isn't met. So that's everything from giving them due dates to saying, if this expectation is met, we are going to have a party because we complete this project. Or the opposite, if this expectation is not met, we're gonna have to put you on a performance improvement plan because this is really critical to the business. Whatever it may be, those are pretty extreme examples, but whatever it may be, you need to be crystal clear with expectations. Typically it is the communicator, not the person receiving the communications, who is messing up the communication, right? So that's something to really keep in mind. So what's the one thing you should do to actually get a promotion above your peers? Well, it's creating results, candidly. You know, we're taught in school that if you do the project exactly as it's assigned, you're gonna get an A. The reality is it's not the same in the real world. You need to go above and beyond and get creative. You need to bring more value than was asked. That's actually how you get promoted. So I've got 4 do's that you need to do that are really gonna set you apart in the workplace. Number 1 is going after it like your life depends on it. No matter what, you're going to get these results that you want to get. I like to compare it to when I was playing soccer, my coach would say, dog it, which just meant if you're a dog and you see a ball, you're going after it no matter what. you're gonna make sure everything gets out of the way for you to get that ball. And so I had that mindset in soccer of go after it no matter what. You have to do the same thing in business if you want to drive the results that will ultimately get you a promotion. So number one, probably the most important one, is dog it. Make sure whatever needs to get out of the way gets out of the way so that you can get the results. You're not blaming Susie in marketing. You're not blaming your husband or wife. You're not blaming the weather. I mean, people come up with every kind of excuse under the sun. You just can't do that. You have to do it no matter what. Number two is consistency. So that's showing up every day, making it happen. Really key piece of this is just reverse engineering your goals so that you can say, if I make 100 dials a day, then I'm gonna book 3 demos a day and I'm gonna close 2 deals a week. I don't know what the exact numbers are for each specific role, but that's a good sales example of what it takes to actually ladder up to the goal I'm trying to get to of revenue. So think about that in whatever your role is. What are the things that you need to do every single day that will ultimately ladder up to your ultimate goal? So this takes some level of planning, takes some level of analysis, but if you can consistently hit it day after day, you will get to where you want to go. Number three is really just zooming out and having big goals. There's this concept of putting rocks in the jar before you put the sand in, because if you put the sand in first, you're not gonna actually be able to fit the rocks. The analogy behind that is the sand is all the small stuff, the easy tasks, well, I'll just get this done and then I'll work on the big project. And before you know it, you've got 3/4 worth of sand and you can barely fit any of the big rocks in there. And this is just such a common problem that people run into. You have to focus on getting those big projects in first and then handling the sand as you can throughout. That level of focus is really critical to being able to drive revenue and get the promotion. Lastly, make sure you have a winning team. Pull in people who can help. Even if you don't necessarily have the authority to be pulling in people, it's much better to do it and get a wrist slap than not do it and just be the person that didn't get it done no matter what. So that goes back to number one, dog it, pull in people that can help, pull in resources that can help. There will always be a level of respect and authority given to people who drive results, regardless of what steps they need to take to get there. So make sure your team is a great team, even if you don't necessarily have the full authority over that team or the other teams that you're pulling in. Do it anyway.
High standards and hard work were how the team was going to get there. So I felt like that did help me to motivate the team and to help us to produce a high quality of work consistently.
Now you know what to do and what not to do. Go crush it at your job, drive some revenue, and stop getting overlooked. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this.